Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that the right book at the right time can change lives, and that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So that's what we do here on the KidLit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature: picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels for readers of all ages. In each episode, we'll talk with children's literature authors and discuss their books, their hopes, their dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. Whether you're an adult reading to their inner child or connecting the young readers in your life with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. So grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of KidLit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the KidLit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your KidLit Loving host, inviting you back for another weekly conversation with a children's literature author. Today, I'm welcoming back Ann Braden. Ann is the well-loved middle grade author of some of my favorites: The Benefits of Being an Octopus, Flight of the Puffin, and Opinions and Opossums. She's here today to talk about her newest release, Into the Rapids. Ann writes books about kids learning to stand up for themselves, even when it's hard. And in this book, readers learn that sometimes even the most self-reliant of us needs to be brave enough to ask for help. Just like all the others, this book went straight to my reading heart, and I cannot wait to talk about it with her. So we will get right to the episode. Ann, welcome back ×3.
So happy to be here with you.
Yeah,
Always such a pleasure.
I know. Every time you pop onto the screen, it's just like talking to an old friend, because I feel like I know you from reading your
You
books,
do.
or you read pieces
You-
of you. Yeah, all readers who have read all of your books, it's like, oh yeah, she's my friend. I know her.
Definitely friends.
So this is your third time on the podcast, which is so exciting. You have the honor of being the only author who has been on here 3 times. Thankfully, you always say yes to me when I ask. And I would love to start, not from the beginning necessarily, because you've told kind of your origin story about writing on the podcast before. And I'll link listeners to the other episodes that Ann was on talking about her previous books. But I would love for you to just give a little introduction to readers and maybe just tell us what you've been up to since the last time you've been here.
Sure. So I think my overall introduction is that I used to be a middle school social studies teacher. Before that, I wanted to be a teacher, but I didn't ever consider being an English teacher because one of the things I was pretty sure about for the first 30 years of my life was that I could not write. So not an English teacher. Anyway, so skip forward, I would send like a community organizer, and then in the midst of that, I discovered that actually I could create a story if I gave myself enough time to do it and build up the little building blocks. And I still, even now, cannot come up with story ideas easily, but I know that with pen and paper and planning and lists, I can eventually come up with a story, generally.
More than generally, but go ahead, continue.
And so, so I think I must have been on here to talk about opinions and opossums. And that book, as it came out, I had, around that same week, honestly, I had written one whole draft of a new book and half a draft of another book. And I'd send them both to my editor. I should say that these are not books. These are manuscripts because they have not gotten a go ahead yet. I'd send them to my editor. I was hoping to be like really on the road to the next book by the time that Opinions and Opossums came out. And that week, I heard from my agent, like, nope. She has nixed both of these ideas. And I was like, oh,
When you're Ann Braden, Ann Braden, this is hard.
So I had like, and I mean, one of the things that's fabulous about my editor is that I rarely doubt her. And so when she tells me something, I believe it and I trust her. Like, she knows what she's doing. And so, like, these books are not working. they're not working. It's not like, but oh, what if it's like, no, okay, as soon as she says it, I can see it. And she's like, where's the deep character dive? Where's the animal metaphor? And what's
Right.
ironic is that one of the characters, it was too deeply an animal, because one of the drafts, and I maybe even talked about this in the podcast because I think I hadn't found out that it had gotten nixed yet.
I think so.
One of the
I'm
drafts was
remembering.
like, it was like birds were the main characters. Like, it's really hard to do a deep character dive when like your main character is a crow. I mean, they are very intelligent, but still, like, there's only so much I really understand about the crow's experience. Um, so I was like, okay, that is really true. And so um, I was talking with my agent, and I was like, I just don't know, like, what else? And she's like, well, like, if you were going to do a deep character dive of yourself, like, where would that go? I think I don't. I have actually very little memory of this conversation. I just know we came out with the idea that is Into the Rapids, and one of the things that I'd always tried to sort of tiptoe around was like, so my dad died when I was a baby, and I really struggle to write characters that are not daughters being raised by single moms, because that was totally my experience. One of the other draft that I had that was also next, I was writing a boy being raised by a single dad. I thought maybe I could do this, and my editor's like, not believable, these people are not believable. And I was like, and so I was like, can I write another single mom daughter book? And my editor's like, yes. So I was like, okay. And so then, but I'm still trying to tiptoe around the idea of the dad dying, because I mean, my dad dies in Opinions and Apostles, but I don't really talk about it too much. Dad isn't present in the Benefits of Being an Octopus, and in the Flight of the Puffin, there's a variety of different, family situations because there's so many characters. But I just know it's such a trope to have the dad die in middle grade. It's like my husband's always joking, like, how did the dad die in this book? So I really tried to avoid it, but it's like, well, my dad did die. Right. Like, actually delve into the issues of that, because one of the things that has really shaped me is that idea of like, my life is not forever. Like, that has been very clear from my entire like cognizant life. Like, he died when I was 18 months. And so, and it was a plane crash. It was like a sudden sort of thing. And so and I was in the plane crash. My mom was in the plane crash. And like, so, my mom saved my life. The whole, like, I exist because of her in a variety of ways.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting goosebumps now because I've read the book. So yes, this is why we know you. This is why we know and love you. Okay.
Yes.
Again, I'm sorry.
So I was like, well, if you don't think that's too, like, it's been done, I could try to. It felt like a topic I was like, this is not going to take a lot of work, honestly.
Right.
And it was the easiest book I've ever written. It's like, from beginning to end with edits, it was a year. It was like,
wow.
Possums took me 4 years. Maybe without even the edits. I can't remember, but like, I had to rewrite that so many times. And this was just like, oh, well,
yeah,
this is what happened.
Meant to be.
Yes. So I was so worried that I was going to be really behind in the whole process, because these other like book and a half had gotten nixed. But then I was like, actually, I was right on schedule, because the other one was so short to the process, and it's also very short as a book too. But anyway, so yeah, so that so recently I haven't written that one, worked on that one for a year, but that's sort of, in terms of Into the Rapids, that's what I was doing until I was writing it.
Wow. Like I said, now it just, like, so many things in the book fall into place, certain moments. And of course, I don't want to spoil it for readers, but this is why I love having you back every time, because I feel like it just makes the book that much more meaningful and personal and deeper in those connections with the authors when you see those little pieces of them that are in the book. Because that part, when you said you were in the plane crash, your mom saved you, that is such an emotional piece of this book. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm going to back up. Into the Rapids, we have Addie. Addie lives in the mountains. with her mom. She's looking forward to this survival camp that has this beautiful family connection and connection to her dad. But then this big, huge superstorm just wipes out her hopes, wipes out her chances for that survival camp. It pretty much wipes out the community. But in that process, it puts Addie out of her comfort zone and perhaps into something else. And so why don't we tell them? Let's tell them a little bit more. I just gave a really quick overview. But tell us more about that. We now know how you arrived to the book. So let's give them a little sneak peek.
So Addie and her mom are really self-reliant. Like they live by themselves in this little remote town and they don't rely on anyone else, and they're proud of that. And like Addie's really determined to get to the survival camp. It only happens once when you're 12. Her parents met there when they were 12. It's like, part of her story. And she is strong. She chops wood, like it's like, an extension of her body. She's like, her mom and her they just are really burly, awesome, like rock star women, but very independent in a way where they are very disconnected from the other people in the town. And Addie doesn't really have friends at all. It's a tiny little town, a tiny little elementary school. Kids haven't been particularly nice to her, but it's been a while. And like the boy who sort of started this name that really annoys her lives next door, so she never talks to him. And then when this superstorm hits, they lose power. And she knows the one place up the hill is the place where she goes camping in the woods that will have self-service. So she ends up there, but also the next door neighbor boy ends up there looking for cell signal too. So the two of them keep ending up in the same spot trying to get cell service, and they're really different from each other in many ways. Like she is so isolated. He is like the mayor of the town. He's like, he knows everyone, he's connected to everything, he cares about all of it. And for him, he is like, Addie is not shocked that all this happened. Like her mom's been sort of raising her to survive in this sort of situations. Like nothing is like very surprising. There's an old man who gets swept away by the floodwaters, and Addie's like, he's probably dead. Like that's probably what happened. That's also what happened to her dad. Her dad died in a flash flood accident. And so she's very aware that he's probably dead. That's what happens.
Right.
And so this next door boy, though, has never really had to think about death or face death. And he knows this old man. And so he starts getting panic attacks around the fact that death happens, that this old man might be dead, that his name is Caleb, that Caleb might have to die someday, and like just whole like spiraling outwards from that. And so they're each sort of struggling with kind of the opposite problem. And so part of the story is about each of them sort of in their sort of very weird, reluctant, burgeoning friendship, helping the other recognize kind of what they were missing and what other ways that they can be in life. And so for Addie, it's sort of, she's got to figure out how to get to camp. With the bridge in the town has gotten swept away by the water. Camp is still happening because it's in a part of the state that wasn't as damaged. And so she's got to figure out how to get there. But the only way is to see if she can actually rely on the next door neighbor boy, Caleb. And so it's like, a lot about going out of your comfort zone. And the camp slogan is find out what you're capable of. Mm-hmm. And so that's very much what Addie is tasked with.
Yeah. I just love everything you just said. Like it just beautifully captured. Of course, you've written the book. You've wrote the book. But I love that play of ideas of, the two of them were very self-reliant. They were isolated in many ways, like Addie kind of isolating within herself because of school, within the two of them, her and mom against the world, within the community, they keep very closed out. And then, of course, suddenly it's this forced opportunity right? To broaden those circles and to go a little bit deeper, which is hard. It's really hard when you are so used to doing that. But then to have the juxtaposition of Caleb, who's the opposite, but struggling in his own way. It's like that space at the top, the space up where the cell phone service worked is like this container of growth and connection. And as I was reading, I couldn't help but thinking, I'm like, I want to go there. I want to go there because it's this place where they're reflecting, they are thinking, they're connecting, they're pushing each other away. It was just such a beautiful space in the book and then physically in the book that really set off a whole domino of things that happen after that, which we don't really want to talk about because then we start to spoil the story. Um, but it may not have been, at a camp per se, depending on what time we are in the book, but certainly finding out what she's capable of in a different way and
Yeah.
adventurous way as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually, one of the things I've had sort of something that I wanted to include in a book some way, but I couldn't figure out how to do it was that the survival camp kind of idea. Because when I was a little bit older, it was like 13, 14. I went to a regular summer camp, but you could train to go to this week-long survival camp when you were there. And I I was not like Addie. I was scrawny little tipsy child, like just a waif of a just I was so tiny. And so I was always judged for that. And I like the idea that I could chop wood and show people how strong I was. Like it was this whole like I was like, yes, I want to be. It was called a junior Maine guide program. It still exists in Maine. It's on an island in Maine. Um and like it was such a transformative experience. And like one of the so there's this test, the wet day fire test, which Addie also is preparing for, where you basically have a log. You bring the log to the test. It gets soaked in a bucket of water for half an hour, and then the test begins, and you chop up the log, and you build a fire with what you've chopped up, and you get the fire going, and you need to get it hot enough that it boils over water, and you need to do all of that within 20 minutes. And I must say, my first year of doing it, I completely failed. It was like
Yeah.
entire week. But my second year coming back, I did it in 15 minutes and 20 seconds, and it was faster than the boy next to me who did not succeed. And I was just like, man, like I have never felt so strong. And so like I feel like I always wanted to sort of bring in that sort of survival skills, like, canoeing, axemanship, all the things that like shelter building, topographical map, all that stuff into a book. But I just couldn't figure out where or how to do it until this book came along.
Yeah. So there's that second piece of you, like brought together in the book. Yeah, I really love the lesson, especially of it's okay to ask for help. Like you do not have to do this alone. And Addie started to learn that first with Caleb's help and the adventure eventually that takes place. But what I love was in the process of Addie doing Addie, and doing that work herself. Like mom got brought along for the ride, which was just such a beautiful piece, right? Isn't that the case? Our kids end up teaching us
Oh my gosh, yes.
so much. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I do feel like that idea of, I mean, I think that that's sort of at the core of some of the, we have a lot of strife in our country right now, but that idea of American independence has like always, it's like runs through like our veins as Americans in a lot of ways. But we have to like, it also like sort of, it blinds us to the webs that we're all connected, the ways we're all connected, the ways we all need each other. And so I feel like having both of those things together at once and holding both of them in one person is It's a much healthier way to go.
Yes. Yes, it is. So a couple of words for you. Octopus, puffin, opossum. Talk to us about Into the Rapids.
Doesn't have an animal in the title, but if you remember, my editor is like, where is the animal metaphor? So it definitely has one in there.
It's there.
Much of a mouthful to fit into the title. And honestly, it didn't play as large a role as the other ones did. So it didn't really deserve title. Although all the working titles definitely had it in it. So Caleb is like freaking out about death. Like I know many kids do. Especially, and it's often alone at night at bedtime, like when you don't, like no one talks about death.
Yeah.
At the kid level or two kids, or like it does not, like there's funerals for old people, but other than that, it is not talked about. And so one of the animals that Caleb sort of starts clinging to as he's freaking out about the fact that life ends is this animal called the immortal jellyfish, which is a jellyfish. It's the size of like your fingernail, lives off the coast of Japan. And when it gets old or runs out of food or gets injured, it can actually go back to its larva state and regrow an infinite number of times. And so scientists are studying it to find out what's its genome like, where's that immortality switch? And so Caleb is like, oh boy, we've got we've got some hope here. And so one of the things I really liked about having that animal be part of it is that for kids who are feeling that fear around death, it's like it's a hug that goes along with the conversation where you're like, oh, but there's a jellyfish. Maybe there's hope. Maybe I don't have to face that right away, fully, entirely. And so, eventually Caleb gets to a place where he's not needing to rely on the jellyfish as much. But I feel like the fact that it exists will help kids get to that point of the book. And feeling okay. And I remember when I was talking about this book at a school visit before it came out, must have been a year or so ago. And I was like, so I talk about in my books, I'd usually talk about big things that don't get talked about much. And someone had asked me what my next book was about. I was like, so first book is about poverty, next book's about political divides, next book's about religion. So I was like, what's my next one? And I was like, it's about, and all the kids screams, so clapping. I was like, and afterwards someone was like, I really need that book. I'm terrified. I really need to figure out how to get through this. And so it's one of the pieces, even though Caleb is a secondary character, it's one of the pieces I feel like kids are going to get the most out of in a lot of ways. Addie's on this survival journey, and that idea of we need others. But I feel like there's so many kids that are going to need that sort of second piece of the plot.
Yeah. I do have to admit, as I was reading, because I did notice the deviation in title pattern for Into the Rapids, and I thought, what is coming? And when I found that moment, when Caleb talks about that, it was this warm, fuzzy feeling of there it is. I did not forget. There it is, because each one of those animals and those symbols means something to this adult reader. I still have my octopus sticker. It is in the back of my phone case. It is still there. And I went right on to Google. And I was like, I need a visual. I need to see this. And there's something magical that happens because you put these big topics, these big ideas, these big themes, but then you make it tangible and concrete and approachable with the animal that can help just make sense of all of it. And you just, it's just magic. It's middle grade magic of how you blend that together. And this adult reader was very happy to see it in this book. Even though the title wasn't the same, I was like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's all here.
Wonderful. I'm so glad. Yeah. It is nothing it's a cute, weird animal to really help you navigate. It's like having a buddy along the way.
It is. Yeah, it is, and it's something that, you know, in the moment, it helps you make sense, it helps you relate, it gives you that connection, but who knows when, a month, a year, 2 year, 10 years, like, you'll remember that, and that will be there for you and bring that back, and just it just, at least for me, all of them bring me comfort in some
Mhm.
sort of way, and so
Oh,
I
I love
just love thinking about all of the, you know, hundreds of thousands of kids who, when they're in their 40s, like I am, are gonna be like, "Oh, octopus, yeah,
that.
the octopus," or,
I am
"Oh,
strong.
the jellyfish. The jellyfish, yep, I got this. It's okay."
Oh, I
We
love
love
that.
how you do that for us, Anne.
I'm glad it works.
It works, it works. Now, the book is just a couple of months old, at least at the time of the airing of this episode, and I'd love to ask you, as we wrap up, what your hope is for the book, what your hope for readers is, what your hope for the book is as you send it off into the world.
Well, one of my very intentional hopes was that it would be exciting and short enough to bring in all sorts of readers,
Hmm.
and that then it would meet those readers where they were not necessarily expecting they needed to be met emotionally. So it's almost like a Trojan horse of a book where it's like, come for the survival story and leave like with really thoughtful, thought-provoking questions and emotional moments. Um, and I think sometimes kids don't realize that they can get that from a book.
Yeah.
Um, and especially these days, I feel like there's so much that is not feeling like a hug to kids.
Yeah.
Even though that's how they're choosing to spend their time, that's, it's fun, but it's not like, oh, I feel seen, or,
Yeah.
oh, I feel like it's okay to have these thoughts, or it's okay to have these fears, or, oh, when I have these fears, I am not alone.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I I kind of want it to do both of those things. I want it to like keep them turning those pages, and it's short, so they'll be like, "Oh my god, I'm almost to the end." But also to say, "Hey, like you're okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna be okay."
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. Where can listeners find you online so they can learn more about the book, find the book, go through your backlist if they have not done so already? Tell us the places.
My website is annbradenbooks.com, and that's sort of the best place to go because you can sign up for my newsletter there, which it's currently monthly. It's about finding hope and finding strength,
Mhm.
which is a good practice for me to work on every month.
All of
Uh,
us to work on every month. Yes.
and then I'm also on Facebook at Ann B. Braden, and I'm on Instagram, and I'm at Blue Sky, though not a ton, I must say. Um, and Instagram and Blue Sky, I think, are both Ann Braden books. Or maybe Blue Sky is actually just Ann Braden. I think it's like the only one. But yeah, so there's but the newsletter is really the best place because then you stay in contact with like when I'm doing school visits in your areas, um like when my next book is coming out, which was announced. Uh it does have an animal in the title.
Can you tell us about, can you give us a little?
So it's coming out spring of 2027, so 2 years from now. So it'll be a while. Still have to do edits, but it exists. And it's currently called Hijacked by Goats. And so
Hijacked by goats. Oh, that sounds wonderful.
it's about a girl who at the very beginning of the book, she's admitted into a psychiatric hospital, and she's feels like she needs to be punished all the time because she's not perfect. She's not a perfect friend. And her brain is constantly telling her that, like, of all the things she's doing wrong, all the ways she needs to be punished as a result. And so it's about her journey through that. And she ends up getting diagnosed with OCD. And then it's about her journey. Like, the discharge is like midway through the story. There's a lot of work to be done
Right.
after discharge from the hospital. So it's sort of about, it's a much bigger version of you can get help. It's okay to ask.
Yeah. Oh, so you're gonna be the all-time record holder to come back the fourth time, right? In 2027. I'm putting it on the calendar.
Oh, that record on my wall. Shine it every day.
I will come back and find you when it is time. As always, thank you so much. I just love talking to you about books, about everything. I'm just so grateful that you decided after 30 years that writing actually was your thing because you have just touched so many readers, young and old, and I'm just so I'm so glad and so excited to be part of your world and your launch, and I just love you.
Always love coming on. Like, it's just so wonderful to talk to you. And I always feel so much better about the world and books and publishing and my work. And like, I just always leave feeling like I have been hugged. So, anyway.
Well, good. Good. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Anne. And listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of KidLit Love, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the KidLit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find KidLit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly KidLit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of KidLit Love. Thanks for listening.